It's Azah. Now, I want to make clear that all the decisions that I made in this game, surprisingly, were decisions that I made for myself. It's something that I had doubts kind of coming in because, like I told you, outside this house, I made terrible decisions regarding men. But surprisingly, and while it might not look like it, in this house, I made decisions for myself, or as to what the best fit at the time. DX was definitely hard. Now, Brittany had left a week previous, and what I definitely needed to do, I already had my friends in jury, and I had positioned myself, I felt, in the house to be the honest floater. It wasn't on, how I saw the house was, Kylan was up here, I saw SB right here, kind of linked, the link between SB and SB was here, X was right there, and Alyssa was right there. So I kind of saw them kind of up there. And then on this side, I saw Tiffany and Claire, and then Hannah right here. And then I saw Big D and X there in that link, and I kind of saw me in the middle. Me and Big D in the middle as jokers, and as the floaters. Building that profile as what? The honest floater with each HOH. For some reason, the deciding vote from the house would always seem to come from me or Big D. But I had felt like I had positioned myself well enough in the house with this honest profile that people felt that they could trust me. But within the cookout, like I said, the cookout members had to play 2 games at the same time. Outside, the house perspective, and within the cookout. And in the cookout, I still felt like, and I think I was right in this, I was at the bottom. So what I really worked on in this jury phase to 6 was building up my profile as a team player, as someone who is committed to the mission. And I was committed to the mission, but I wanted to build up that camaraderie. First thing I did was work on my relationship with Tiffany. That was actually genuine, but honestly, that honestly needed to be done on a game wise level too. But the other thing I did was with each HOH, I always tried to be a voice of reason, and I always worked with the majority. Now, some people might be upset that I did not fight for DX to stay. I can't do that anymore. I was doing that with Brittany, and it was making me less likable in the cookout. So what I started doing was I started going by majority. So of us 6 members, Kylan, Xavier, Big D wanted DX out. I went to Tiffany and Hannah. If Hannah and Tiffany both said we want to keep DX, I would have been like, no, we're going to keep DX, and I would have pushed for him to stay. I went to Tiffany and Hannah instead said, no, I think DX needs to go. And with that being 4 cookout members, 4, and just me and Tiffany, I'm not going to sit there and try to flip nothing, because I already have been viewed as quote-unquote emotional, aggressive, problematic. So what I started doing with those votes was I started going and leaning towards the majority, because I needed to do that to build myself up in the alliance, because like I said, I wasn't a hot commodity. The other thing too is DX was given some really good points for him to stay. But X was in a strategy shutdown upstairs, and I didn't want to make any game decision without all cookout members there. I don't think that was fair. Who knows, if X was not in strategy shutdown, maybe things might have come out a little bit differently, but I wasn't going to make a decision, especially with someone with the final 3, the only final 3 that had committed to me. I wasn't going to do that, because that's going to mess that up, and it's not like anybody else was approaching me with anything, so yeah. But yeah, so that's things regarding that with DX. But let me move on to week 8, which is SB's week. Now, I honestly thought I threw my whole game away when DX left. I was crestfallen. But we go out there and then Tiffany went to HOH. And I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic because, call it self-esteem, call it whatever. I felt that I was like, dang, like me, Tiffany, Hannah, we're not winning comps. Like, do they not think we're like, are we being carried? You know? But that was just an amazing week. Tiffany winning HOH, Hannah winning veto, getting SB home, because I was afraid of SB and Alyssa. Those were the two people who I was afraid of, who I felt would come after Tiffany, Hannah, and then me afterward. That's what I was afraid. I was afraid to an extent. More of SB than Alyssa. Because Alyssa, we started building more of a game relationship in jury once Christian left, and we were actually working together and meeting on points and stuff like that each week, and we were able to develop a really good genuine relationship too before she left the house. But yeah, that's my things regarding that. With SB, I think I was me and SB actually had a really good relationship, I feel, pre-jury. And then with everything revolving around Brittany and SB being, you know, Kai's person and like, you know, and I think I wouldn't say I projected things, but I might have projected things on her regarding that, because at the end of the day, I don't think she really wanted me out. She wanted Brittany out, but I just felt like wanting Brittany out meant that I was going to, or add vulnerability to my game. But being that she was targeting, or had, I mean, just with it being the essence of things, I knew with Tiffany as HOH, and then Claire winning the secret HOH, that SB would be likely to be the person who'd be going home that week. And that's what happened. That's what happened. She did. So, moving on to week 9. We had all discussed, because we always, after week 6 HOH with Kylan, that's when we all started being like, alright, there was some confusion about like who should win. We do have to strategize who wins because of the perception of the house. Because things are going to look, we had still kept the entire time, our alliance completely covert and no one knew about it. Everyone thought that me and Big D were just some floaters, you know what I'm saying? Everyone thought that could see the side of Tiffany and Hannah, and then could see the side of X, and then could see Kylan in some weird combobulation in the middle. I always feel like I literally view the house as like Kylan up here, me down here at the bottom, with Big D, a little group more closer to X. That's what I saw. And then Tiffany and Hannah. That's what I saw in the house, and with everyone else that's put around it. But it was very important in HOHs, especially in that jury season, to try and strategize who would win HOH so that the perception in the house wouldn't be weird. So in that week, like I said, I had set up my final of 3 in week 7. I knew this week, I was like, I felt like Kai was coming for me, okay? I'll call me delusional, but I felt like he was. And I felt like the only way I could get a path to the end would be by getting Kai out. Because I was like, if Kai's out, Tiffany and Hannah will probably take me to 3 as a secondary option. And Big D and X, from what I believed, are going to take me to final 3. So I'm like, that's how I can win this game. But I was still very particular in like, if I won HOH, I made clear to everyone in the cookout, I wasn't going to put up any cookout members up, because I didn't want to give anyone any type of option to put me up at 6, because that elimination was happening very soon, and we already had a feeling that it was going to be a double. So we all strategized, and we were like, alright, people who need to win, Big D, Azah, and then Kylan. And then, you know, it didn't happen. And, you know, I was sad, but like, at the same time, God told me, he said, Azah, that's when I realized, like, I need to stop feeling entitled to these competitions. Just because somebody said they're going to do something and then they don't do it, like, I can't be upset about that. God told me, he said, Azah, when you win an HOH, it's not going to be thrown to you. No one's going to be able to say that they did it or nothing. you're going to get it by yourself. And I ended up being able to be at peace with that. Now, Tiffany didn't throw it, and there was we were trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to figure this out? Like, because yes, she could put up X and Alyssa, but what if Alyssa wins the veto? And there was all this conversation, and that's when this plan came about that, like, all right, we're going to, like, Tiffany's going to put Claire up and say, you know, I'm only putting you up because I trust you. And I was just like, what? I was like, this is like, come on, y'all. You hear that plane? I'm just like, come on, y'all. Like, are you serious? I was like, number one, I was like, I don't know if everyone can really keep up with this lie. I know I can't. That's going to be real hard for me to keep up with this lie. But I don't know if everyone can keep up with this lie. And that's when they had a conversation, Tiffany, Big D, Kai, X. And they were talking about this whole plan as to what to do. They were talking about for next week in a double who should go up as a pawn. And they were trying to, that's another conversation I'll have with y'all in a second talking about. But I talked to Big D and I was just like, I don't think that she should lie. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand it. I think she should tell as much of the truth as she can. I personally want us to just rip the Band-Aid off and just go ahead and do it. Now, here's my thing. I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, she didn't really want to be there or whatever. No, this is such a different season. I am such a huge fan of this season, and I wanted a black player to win. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I tried to come up with as strategy. I said, okay, how about this? How about we let them know? I said, we present Alyssa with a deal, because by this time, that's when Alyssa won the veto. Present Alyssa with a deal that, hey, we'll spare you this eviction, and if you win HOH the next, you can take Azah home. Because I was like, all right, take the person who doesn't win the most competition, because I personally am more preferable to having a black winner win than me getting through. That's I just am someone who missions resonate with me. So I was very mission focused in that jury phase from 11 getting to 6. But I really wanted Tiffany to just tell the truth, because I was just like, this is weird. So I went up to Tiffany's room that morning and I encouraged her, like, you need to tell your personal truth to her. Like, we need to figure out, like, what you can say, but you need to say something, because this whole plan, like, that is going to burn you in jury. That probably won't work. I just had a lot of doubts in it that it wasn't going to work. She ended up telling her personal truth to Claire, which was great. And I mean, maybe while doing it, possibly, you know, it ended up getting, funny thing is, I feel like Claire was kind of mad at me. And I'm like, dang, I actually, you don't even know, girl, like, I actually made this a much more easier pill for you to swallow. But one thing I had been doing, and this was strategic on my part, y'all won't believe this, but it was. During DX's HOH, when he was asking me about targets, and he definitely wanted the Kings, I had said to him, oh yeah, I was like giving reasons as to why Christian or SB or Alyssa could go up instead. Then when I said X, I was like, yeah, the only reason I want to talk about, I think he's cute. I said that. I said the same thing to Claire too when talking about targets. I'd be like, oh, I think he's cute, that's why. Claire, you know, told me, you know, hey, he's always gonna choose so-and-so over you, blah, 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 this and that, this and that, this and that. Now, like I said, I ain't seen the tapes. I don't know if he was gonna choose, but I don't know. I just thought we was all committed to this 6. So at the end of the day, like, it didn't matter if it was me, if it was Hannah, if it was Big D, if it was Kylan, if it was Tiffany. How I felt, or how I felt we all should feel, was that they come first before anybody. So I know on her way out of the house, she wasn't very happy with me. The reason why I didn't do that vote was because I still didn't really know where Kylan lied, and I didn't know if he was going to try. And it was just so much of a small sliver of anything that I didn't want to risk it. I didn't want to risk me sending somebody home before 6, somebody in the cookout home before the 6. So I was like, you know what? Okay, let me be that team player again, and let me just chill and do whatever and chill. So that was week 9. Go into the double eviction. I had sat down with, this is during this time, Big D comes to me and tells me Kylan wants to talk about a final three. Oh, I gotta say this too. Okay. I gotta talk about my one-on-one conversation with Tiffany. So my one-on-one conversation when she won HOH, I could sense that she wanted something, but I wasn't exactly certain. And for me, guys, like for my game, Big D is my best friend, but on a game level, like I can't do any plan that does not involve Big D. Because if we're being honest, I don't win next to Tiffany. I don't win next to Hannah. Now, I like Tiffany. Like, we made up. And I'm like, all right, you know what? Like, you know, she was like, well, you know, she told me, she said, you play for X, you're just going to be one him doing. I said, girl, if I roll with you, it's going to be the same way, girl. You know? Like I said, I understood and knew my position that ended up happening with this game. I was not, like I said, not a hot commodity until I became a hot commodity, because as we got closer to 6 and people were thinking about endgame, I think me and Big D became much more appealing to people because they felt that they could beat us. But Tiffany said, who do you trust in this game? And I completely meant what I said when I said this to her. I said, I trust you and I trust Big D. Everyone else. And with me saying that to her, I was open to a final 3 of that. But I knew that they didn't, you know, they didn't get along. But that's the only person whom I felt comfortable with, because I felt like that would be one that people couldn't, that they would not waver on, you know. And that's why I told her too. I was like, girl, I came to you trying to make a final 2 before you did no, but it's, you know, it's fine. It's whatever. But yeah, so that was that conversation. Then I'll give you my conversation with Kylan. No, Big D comes to me telling me, oh, Kylan wants to make a final 3. I said, what? I was like, Kylan? I was like, okay. So, you know, Kylan says, you know, hey, you know, he's like, well, first I want to say, like, you know, out here everyone's telling me that, like, you know, I'm your target. And I was like, yeah, yeah, because I thought you were coming for me. I was like, I felt like he was coming for me. He's like, no, I'm not coming for you. I said, oh, okay. I said, great. Okay, that's great. If you're not coming for me, that's awesome. In my head, I was like, bruh, I'm good for a while. Because if Kylan ain't coming for me, then, and he ain't going to put me up if he wins, then that means somebody else is going. And that means I have a great path for what it looks like. So he said, I'm not coming after you. Now, that's when we started talking game, because I had not really talked. I was talking game with Kylan, but it was a very, like, business, like, you know what I'm saying, like, each week we meet up on points and targets and this and that and all that stuff in an effort of transparency, because I told him in week 6, I was like, you need to be more transparent with me. I don't feel like you trust me, and as a result, I don't trust you, and as a result, I end up being emotional. So, that's when we talked about the double. And I had shared this with pretty much everybody. I let Tiffany know I wasn't going to put her up. At that time, we were the only 2 people who hadn't been on the block. I could see that other people was not really happy about that in the cookout, and they wanted us to touch the block. And personally, I didn't care what Tiffany did in week 9 or whatever. Even if people felt like I should have been mad, I don't care. I wasn't going to put her on the block. I wouldn't have put her on the block. Like, it's not going to happen. And people seem to be upset about that if I were to win at the double, but I wasn't. I sat and talked to Hannah, went over things with her who I would put up, and talked to pretty much everybody whom I would put up. And I had decided, and I let Kai know I would probably, if needed be, would probably put him up at the double if I were to win. I put up Kai and Alyssa because that's what makes sense on the perspective of the house. Now, look at me. Every week I was making plans when I was HOH, and then I didn't win HOH except once. It's too funny. But, okay, so the double came. I was so frazzled that day, guys. I was so, I don't get nervous. You know what I'm saying? I'm honestly not that person who gets jitters or things like that, but there was so much pressure. I came out of nowhere and whoop, boom, we were at 6. Boom. I said boom. Amazing. Amazing feeling. Couldn't believe we did it. Oh my God. I still just am like, that moment was pretty amazing. Just as somebody, like I said, who's been a fan for, I've watched all the seasons. I watch the live feeds. And that was such a beautiful moment, and I still kind of pinch myself at the fact that I took part in that. It's pretty darn amazing. All right, but okay, so now, like I said, we had pre-jury, jury till 6. Now I'm giving you my game from 6 to 3. All right, so Kylan, right before his HOH, tells me, Azah, because I was still in the back of my head, I was still going to get Kylan if I was going to be HOH. I was like, nah, I'm going to get him. He said, Azah, I'm not going to put you up. Can you not put me up too? And I was like, I said, okay. I'm not going to lie, guys. I was still planning to put him up if I won. And so, finished the comp. After the comp, Kylan tells me, I still don't plan to put you up. And I would like to take you to 4. If we make an agreement, if you win HOH next week, can you not put me up? Can you hold with that? Can we make a final 4 essentially? I said, okay, who do you want the 4th person to be? And he was very vague about it. That's why I didn't know. He was very vague, and he said, who do you want it to be? And I said, well, I didn't want to give him my choices either. I didn't have any, like I said, the only final 3 I had, only deal I had at the time was a final 3 with X and Big D. And I already knew he wanted to bring Big D in that 4, so it was about who the other person was. And I said, okay, well, I like Tiffany, I like X. I said, I don't know who you want that 4th person to be, but, and I was like, honestly, I'm surprised that you aren't targeting me. I can't believe I said this. But I was like, if I were you, I said, at this point in the game, there are 3 people who have won multiple competitions, who would have a great case sitting next to anybody of winning this game. I said, it's you, it's X, and it's Tiffany. I said, if you take an outlier out, a number of support to somebody, then you're giving them, you let them fight each other and duke it out at 5. That's why I was telling. I don't know why. I really honestly thought that he would get me, but in his sense, it didn't make sense to me. But I was like, if you do that, then you give X and Tiffany, they can duke it out and take each other out, you know? That's what I tried doing my effort to keep Tiffany and to keep X. And I didn't reveal any names. One thing that I always did, one-on-ones that I had with people, like, probably the only person I would probably reveal some stuff maybe to Big D, but I kept, a lot of my game conversations, I kept quiet. People didn't know, like I said, the whole house, like I knew about the Royal Flush week 4 or 5 from Kylan. Never said to anybody. I always kept conversations here, and I only talked about things when the people left the house. But that's just the way I play my game. That's just how I played. Yeah. So, alright. So I'm still sitting here. I'm like, okay, dang this. But Kylan said he wanted to work. I don't know if this was game whatever. He was like, I think he felt, where I think might have come from, why he felt like it'd be a good idea to make a deal with me is up until that point, like I said, I kept up with my deals, and I would honestly tell him, for the most part, if I was going to target him or not. And with him doing that, so that's, I basically had a final 4 with Kylan. Now, I did not get any. I know it's been said, oh, they tried to make a final deal with you or final deal with you. Guys, I think you guys see, I need things to be like, I need to be direct and blunt with stuff. Like, I bluntly said to X and Big D, I want to make a final 3. You know, Kylan was pretty direct to me when he said, I want a final 4. The words came out of his mouth. I did not get that in mind that they wanted to make a deal with me. I really didn't. And I had a suspicion, not a suspicion, but I felt that they were working with Kylan and working with X. So I didn't get any, I kind of felt like I was a second option, if that makes sense. And you know what? Honestly, I was a second option to pretty much everybody, including Big D. Man, it didn't matter which way I picked. I was getting played nevertheless. I knew at the 6th, if a guy won HOH, a girl was going to go out. If a girl won HOH, a guy was going to go out, and that's how the season would follow. Now, I didn't get any, they asked me again and again, are the guys working together, are the guys working together? And this is why I said no. I said no because X had made it, or seemed at least to indicate, to make it clear to me that he wanted Kylan out. He wanted Kylan out. So in my head, I'm like, the guys aren't working together if he wants Kylan out. Like, people left and right, besides me, were making deals left and right all over the place. You know what I'm saying? So just because somebody has a deal doesn't mean that they're going to keep up with it. Tip and Hannah had a whole rack of deals. Big D had a whole rack of deals. X had a whole rack of deals. I don't know if Kai had a lot of deals. I still need to go back and check. But when asked if are the guys working together, I said no, because I'm like, no, like that's not, they're not us three to the end. Boom. It doesn't seem like that's the case. And I truly did believe in the final three that I had, because I trusted Big D, being that was my best friend in the house, and I trusted X, being that he would probably want to keep me around because he feel like he could beat me. And I had no problem with that. I had no problem with that in the sense of I have been underestimated many times in my life. And how I'm always coming in the cut with stuff is exactly when people think I'm the underdog and they think that they can beat me. And I was using that to my advantage, because I'm like, all right, let him think that he can beat me. And then when I get to that final three, I'm going to make it happen. Didn't happen, but that was what I was betting on. I was going to get to the final three, I was going to take Big D, and I was going to win this game. Now, Kylan nominations. I was like, wow, okay, Azah, you're still not on the block, okay. And, you know, Kylan won the veto that week too. I asked Kylan again who he wanted that fourth person to be. I still didn't know who he wanted it to be, that person at 4. I only found out a little later that it was X, but I still didn't know that. That's a blind spot. That's one of my blind spots, I would say. But yeah, so he ended up, you know, using the veto, and then Tiffany was a sure bet to go home. Now, I had told Tiffany, I'm gonna be your vote nevertheless, but you need to get, you need to talk to X and Big D. She did talk to them. I asked X, I said, are you really for sure on this, that you want her to go home? He was like, yeah. For me, I don't look like, there are ways to play this game, and I'm not going to sit there and put myself out there and risk my placement later down the line. Do you get what I'm saying? So when I thought about it, I was like, dang, if I still give Tiffany this vote, if Hannah wins HOH next week, she has a reason to put me up. I don't want to give Hannah any reason to put me up. And I honestly felt if Hannah won HOH, I was going to go home, because I felt like the guys would have another guy on the block in best interest rather than me. So I did not, I decided to vote with the quote-unquote house, because in two things, Kai had indicated, maybe this is game, maybe whatever, but he had not only spoken about a final 4, he'd also indicated that he would be interested in a final 3 as well, and he would keep me off the block even if I accepted it or not. I kept quiet and I didn't move on that because of the final 3 that I had. I didn't want to be dishonest, so I just kept quiet on that. But yeah, so that's my things regarding that. Okay, so yeah, so I decided, like I said, to vote with everyone, because I didn't want Hannah to have a reason to put me out and say, well, you know, you said this, and I made sure to let Hannah know, hey, I'm voting to keep Tiffany. I'm voting to send Tiffany home. So Tiffany goes. I had gone through, at this point, like I said, the final 3 that I trusted was X and Big D. And I had gone through scenarios of how HOH would look, not realizing it was a double eviction. I wanted to, now I have to think about things. I was still thinking about that final 2. And here's the thing, I did not have much on my resume, guys. I really did not have much, you know. I had a good social relationship, I would say, with a lot of the jury members, which could sway in that opinion. But the 2 things I had that I felt like I had was that I did not break on any deals, and nobody in the cookout could say that. And I felt that we didn't know what the jury was going to look like. So if it was a bitter jury, I would have looked great. You know what I'm saying? And I hadn't touched the block. I wasn't trying to touch the block. I wanted to get to final two, not touching the block, and being able to say that I kept up with every single deal. So all my decisions I made from 6 to 3 was trying to keep up with that as much as possible, because that is all I had. I didn't have anything else. But I went through scenarios with X and with Big D. When Big D told me I'm gonna put you up in Hannah, I was like, the heck? What the heck? I should have seen then, but I didn't see it then. But I talked with X, and we both agreed, okay, if you win, I'm putting you up. If I win, I'm putting you up. And I agreed that it'll be X and Hannah. I had thought, I did not see X. I knew X was like, I didn't know Kylan, I didn't know they had a deal of a final two, do you know what I'm saying? I thought Kylan would be more loyal to Big D than X. I truly did. And I picked those things because I didn't want Kylan to use the veto. I was worried Kylan was going to use the veto on Hannah, and that would make me have to send Big D or X home, which would not be good for my game in the final 3 that I created, that I had gone with. So I was banking and hoping. Hannah was, just because as a casualty, I didn't have any deals with anybody else but her. I had deals with everybody else but her. So she had to go up because I didn't have any deals with anybody else but her. Kylan, I was hoping Hannah would win, and then I could have an excuse to put Kylan up because I can't put up Big D. And then Kylan can go home. That's what I wanted. Because in that sense, it would, that's what I kind of wanted. I ain't gonna even lie, or not gonna lie. But my first target was Hannah, and then my secondary target was Kylan, if Hannah wasn't able to go. Now, the double eviction happened and everything so fast, and I was pissed because I ended up lying to her. I shouldn't have lied to her. My lying isn't even me trying to be on a high horse or anything. I was trying to be consistent with my resume, so I wanted to be able to say at final 2 that I ain't lying on people and all that stuff, but I couldn't say it anymore, and I was pissed about that. I was mad about that. So yes, that happened. Now I know you guys are so upset with the why did I take Hannah out, but I gotta sit there and still say that was the best decision for my game. There's no other decision I could have made. I take X out. I am still building a relationship with Kai, and I don't know, how it is with Hannah, and Big D, whom I trust can't win competitions. If Kai won HOH, as people who are more competitive, Hannah probably could have, gotten that veto, gotten herself up, and I could have very well been gone at 4. If I didn't take Hannah out, unfortunately. I truly feel if I did not take Hannah out, I would probably be gone at 4. Especially with 2 people who are capable of winning comps that have the best interest of themselves first, or that have the best interest of me. I don't know if Hannah would have the best interest of me, and I don't know if Colin had the best interest of me. They'll have the best interest of them moving forward. But with X had best interest of winning the game, and I felt that he felt a good way to win the game would have been me in the final 3. So I'm not going to take him out. I wanted to take him out at 3 and have that on my resume, be able to be at the final 2, say I ain't lied, I didn't break no deals, I stayed off the block, and I took X out. Boom, come on, bruh. But if I had taken X out then, it doesn't make any sense to me why I would take X out. I don't know why would I take out the one final 3 that I have, and I don't know how Kylan's thinking. I know Kylan and Hannah have a better relationship than I've had with either of them, or at least they seem to. And all I have is Big D, and we have not been able to. I can't compete in the HOH, and we've been struggling with competitions. The best bet for me, unfortunately, was to take out Hannah, and if not Hannah, then take out Kai. Okay, so yes, so we move forward to final 4. Now, I had always known, like I said, about the final three with Big D and X. But I had thought that Big D, in Big D's head, I thought it was X, then me. I now realize it was X, then Kai, then Big D, then me. My one blind spot in this game was definitely Big D. Yeah, that was my blind spot. It wasn't X, it was Big D. Because I knew what I was dealing with X. But I thought that me and Big D were like this after X. But that's when I found out that he said, oh, I have a deal with Kylan. I'm like, what the heck? You got a deal with Kylan? I'm like, okay, so you basically, that's basically the final three, what you're having, what you're setting up. And I was just like, bruh, like, I actually have been your ride or die. Like, I've actually been there for you. Like, you don't want to take somebody who actually has been there for you and somebody who isn't consistent at competitions. Like, it makes no sense. Come on, man. I forgot that X actually did tell me about his final two with Kylan. Well, how he said was, he thinks he has a final two with me, but he just kind of waved it off like it was like, you know, and he said that I think around 6, maybe 6 or 5, when it was down to 6 or 5 of us. But I didn't take it, I trusted him when he said that, and from, as you guys can see, it was right. That's hard to say. So final four, I'm like, dang, I gotta win this veto, get to the veto. I'm looking back, I've looked at some stuff, and I'm so bad that I was the first person to get to 54, and then I skipped to 59, and I skipped to everything else, and I could have won that veto. I would have not been eliminated second, you know what I'm saying? I would have had a fighting chance. I'm pissed, but it's okay. It's okay, it's okay, it's all good, it's whatever, it's okay. So, alright, so, moving on, veto happened, and then, as you saw what happened with the whole thing, honestly, okay, I ain't gonna comment on it. Should I comment on it? Okay. All I'm gonna say is this. X has a cat named Kovu, and I thought I heard Kovu, so I thought for a second they were talking about the cat when that whole interchange happened, but it wasn't about the cat. I was like, oh wait, no, it's not Kovu. Bruh, I'd be like, it's funny, because I be just in my own world sometimes. Okay, but sorry, moving on. So now we're at final three. This is the final three I wanted. I wanted this final three for a couple of reasons. So, okay, yeah, we talked about 6 to 3. Now we're talking about at final three. I wanted this final three for a couple of reasons. I wanted to be with my best friend. I wanted to sit at my best friend at the final two. I felt like it could be a toss-up between me and Big D. If I don't win part 1, it could be a toss-up at part 2 of Big D. And then final 3, I just need to memorize and make sure I know these house guests like the back of my hand, and I could get that shot at winning $750,000. Now let me tell you guys something. You're in a house for 7 days. Those final 7 days were very difficult for me. For reasons I will choose to stick away from. But even with that difficulty, you have a lot of time to think. There's a lot less people in the house, you know. I was reading my dad's letter every day about don't be a slave to money. And I started thinking,